For this video we have used the classic or simple, or in other words fast method. Mostly beginners use this method while they start coding, but once they gain experience they can appreciate the benefits of structured or well thought out code. They then limit it to prototyping only. If you guys don't use classes or scriptable objects, you need to understand what you're missing out on. Like you will see in this video that I have created everything, each object here separately, and connected them according to their IDs or numbers. It's really hectic when the numbers increase to individually do everything, whereas if I use a class I can define each weapon as a whole gun or whatever happens, whatever weapon it is, from its ammo, mag, fire rate, basically whatever else differentiates one weapon from another. And if you get onto the scriptable objects, then it becomes extremely flexible, and it's really recommended that when you use gun inventory systems and larger systems. Mostly for prototypes you can use the current method if you're prototyping, but for a commercial release, optimization and having the ability to scale further is crucial, and that is why we use more structured code. We need to appreciate the good stuff, but we cannot do it without going through the bad stuff, so that's why we'll use this method. Before we start our project, Unity recently announced its much awaited feature, the dark mode. So I installed the required Unity version for using it, and the internet broke. Moving on, let's create a new project and name it GTA 5 Trevor with animation. Setting basic ground setup for our player. For our model, we are going to use this fabulous Trevor model from GTA 5. Thank you, JMart the Gamer. Also, if you guys frequently use Sketchfab or intend to, there is a plugin for Unity to make importing assets a bit easier. Download the Unity package and you'll get an extra tab next to component tab. You can browse and import directly. Do check it out. So here we have our imported Trevor model, but do know that it's in OBJ format and it has no animations. Since this is not an animation focused tutorial, we're just going to use Mixamo and upload our Trevor model. We just have to position some markers and let it do its magic. Since our hands are not constructed, it might give an error. We readjust our wrist markers, and we will make do with this. You guys can always create your own models, but since this is a reference, we will use this and omit the hands in Unity. The creator of this model has done an absolute job on rest of the model and make it free. So I absolutely am looking forward to more of JMart the Gamer's creations, but if you guys think otherwise, you can suggest me in the comments. On Mixamo, my main animation would be idle, so I downloaded it in FBX with skin. Skin basically means with model at 30 frames per second. It can be 60, but for this project 30 is ideal, and keyframe reduction in this case is none. So I import this in Unity and place in hierarchy. I unpack the prefab completely in hierarchy and create an empty game object named player and child this to the empty game object. We don't directly use the model and make an empty parent object, as this gives us more flexibility if we need to change things later to the model in the future without breaking much stuff. I also created a folder to place my unused animes that you guys can later download the project and add to it as a learning experience. Whenever you import a model with material and textures, Unity logs in and we are unable to modify. There are workarounds this, but the best way I found is to duplicate the materials from the source and replace the duplicate ones with the pre-existing imported models. We can then modify the duplicate materials easily. If you guys know a better solution, then please share in the comments. Now something for our environment. After a bit of search, I found this construction site model on Sketchfab as well by Spogna. Thank you, Spogna. FBX is available, so we download the FBX format directly. Importing the construction site into Unity and making some transform adjustments. Now we adjust the camera, and instead of a third-person view, since the player isn't going to be moving much in this tutorial, I went for a frontal wallpaper view. I then added two directional lights, one opposite to the other, and readjusted my main camera. Next, we need a gun pack. So we hunt it on the Unity asset store. I searched through some low poly to PBR ones, but I like this modern weapons pack by 7XF Design, as it goes with our style and it's free. Thank you, 7X Design. Importing the modern weapons pack into Unity. I created this 8-part wheel in Inkscape. One is the normal and the other is highlighted one. Now, as the weapon selection system is a UI, we need a canvas, hence we create one and set it to standard HD 1080p resolution. And now we need a panel that would serve as a base layer of all its child UI components. Then we import our UI sprites that we created recently in Inkscape and set their positions accordingly. Moving ahead, we need a sprite of guns that we can use on top of this wheel. I found one that kind of works by some guy from LC. So now my panel consists of weapon, highlighted weapon, and G stands for gun icons or weapons. We reach at the core part of the video, that is creating the brain. So to create the brain, we create an empty game object and name it wheel selection system and assign a new script to it named weapon selection system. This is a bit old technique, but it still works today to track down a location even if your device doesn't have a GPS. Imagine we have 3 towers, a tower like that, and in an area, and you're the dot who carries a non-GPS device. So if someone wants to track your location, the SIM card that you're using or the network you're using, they would send signals or waves to your device, and they would calculate the distance like that, and then they would triangulate the closest towers to your location in that area, and they would find how far you are exactly. Now this is not as good as GPS system, but it used to work well around, I think it used to give around 50 meters to 100 meters accuracy, I'm not sure, but this is the method that really used to work before any kind of specific location hardware was installed in mainstream devices. We're going to use somewhat similar technique, but instead of tracking down a device, we're just going to calculate the individual areas between 2 towers and 1 dot, and then tower to tower, and connect all those lines and find the area within. And the dot is basically your mouse cursor position. Okay, you must be familiar with this wheel, divided into 8 segments, each being emerged from a 45-degree angle, and there will be a mouse position that will connect with the end vertices, creating 3 different triangles whose area will be A1, A2, A3, and it should be equal to the sum of the bigger triangle, and similarly for all other segments. Now that you guys have an idea how we will be determining the cursor point, let's create some points or vertices and set their location, and we draw lines from vertex to vertex. We will have a look at the script in a while. We need to cover the entire screen so that there are no gaps left for errors. Then we move on to the script. Here is the script for vertices and its triangular generation using individual vertices accordingly. Now please pause the video to absorb the code. I've commented the code so it's easier to understand. And just below that we have our method named base area, where we take in 3 points named vertex or vec 1 2 3, and we formulate on those points to calculate the base area. Then we use those calculations to pass in our is inside area method to check if our mouse is in that particular area. As I showed earlier that the sum of three sub areas should be equal to the total area, but we just bring the total area to RLHS of the equation, and now it gives us a 0 on RHS. Hence a1 plus a2 plus a3 should equals b a, but if we bring a to left side then it becomes 0. So that's what we do, or close to 0. Next, we assign to the vertices in our script that we previously created. So we also need skip to refer our main camera because we need to convert. This is what each vertex looks like. We have this function current active weapon where we check if we are inside an area generator, playtesting it, and yes, it's working. We just complete the script for all the weapons, and voila! We have done most of the heavy lifting today, and we now just need to assign our guns to Trevor's hands and refer to our guns according to the placement of our weapon index. So we'll have a management system to manage that, and I'm done for today. What do you guys do to decompose after work? I'm gonna play some GTA and we'll catch up tomorrow. Picking off where we left yesterday, we now create this function where we can pass our weapon index and change our weapon by setting it true or false accordingly, which we'll call is inside function. We need more weapons, so we will just hunt it on the Unity asset store and found this one by artset PBR weapon pack. Importing. We create a weapon holder game object under our player where it will act as the parent of all the weapons. Usually we assign this to the hands of the player, so the movement depends on the hands. But this will do later after settling all our weapons under the holder. Need a sniper. Thanks LemmoLab. Making some weapon adjustments under weapon holder. We're aware of the situation with Trevor's hands, so we'll just use the knife instead. Everything seems to be working as desired. We need some crispy UI. Importing TextMesh Pro for UI text. And I place the text under each of our weapon, which will display the ammo. Making some text adjustments. We add another header for naming our weapons on the UI screen in our main script, and create a small function weapon name to call it in our current active weapon when we need to. And here we have it. Do know that the ammo here is a dummy, but we can make it functional the same way we have created other mini functions inside our main script. However, it's better to create subclasses of weapons or skippable objects, which we can highlight some other day in some other video and discuss their benefits over this one. Remember in beginning we imported few animations. Well, I'm going to use the idle one to breathe some life into the player. But it seems like our weapons are not moving with our player's hands or arms or whatever you want to call it. We need to fix that. We need to place our weapon holder under our right hand as its child, and yes, now it looks more natural. I can display my cursor or make it disappear, but you guys can modify according to your needs. Small lesson on differences of using this approach versus using a class or subclass, and also scriptable objects. Maybe if you guys like, I'll do it in my next video with some other game and its gameplay. Thanks if you stay till here. Don't sub if you don't yet feel committed to this type of classes or content or channel in general. But if you did enjoy and found value, you can just hit the like button or dislike button.